For the first time in a long time, I think like there's hope for this generation. It's so refreshing to see somebody stand up to what is really the embodiment of like all the evil in America, in North America, the Republican Party, especially in its like most racist, most xenophobic, most transphobic, most homophobic form. It's like a champion was born. It's a wonderful day in the homiehood, a wonderful day for a homie. Won't you be my homie to Taro? It's going to be one for the ages. I'm almost positive. It all started when some Tennessee lawmakers, the Tennessee Three, I believe they're called. It was two black men and a white woman. They basically took over the Tennessee legislature. They took it over in a way that like conservatives were like, oh my God, the left is doing like a January 6th of their very own. And it wasn't even close to that. It was lawmakers and protesters who were essentially protesting and getting loud about the need for gun control legislation. This was coming in the wake of the shooting where 6 people died, another mass shooting in the US. So basically, just another day. But obviously, this was one that galvanized people. I'm pretty sure that this was the one done by a trans person, right? Like conservatives were all up in arms about this. The crazy part is that instead of them getting their way, instead of them stoking fear and fanning the fires, we actually got this amazing action from the Tennessee Three. Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson. They joined demonstrators gathered at the State House on March 30th to demand stricter gun control laws. And, this led to more conservative fear mongering, more Republican fear mongering, again, saying that this was like a leftist version of January 6th. It wasn't. They weren't calling for the death of anyone. They were actually calling for the death, less deaths and preventative measures by taking proactive gun control measures. So, these shootings take place all the time, and the really interesting thing about this is that the speakers, specifically the black men here, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, they are some of the most inspiring political speakers I have heard in my lifetime. You can see Justin Jones here. They're also so young, 27 years old. 27 years old, and Justin Pearson is 28 years old. Like they're like so young, and like so this to me is just giving me hope that the United States might actually have some sort of leadership on the left. Now of course they are Democrats, which they're very centrist, center right, but what is really inspiring here is that there are people within the Democratic Party who are willing to be this radical, right? And I think because they have now been then cast into the limelight as a result of being expelled, and essentially, Republicans are always playing this victim narrative, and cancel culture is ruining our country, and decorum is really important, and they've gone against their own political instincts, and have essentially attempted to cancel Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. And they failed. They failed because first of all, you shouldn't be able to cancel democratically elected politicians, and I guess I don't really I couldn't begin to explain how Tennessee law works, that they also get to be reinstated, but it seems like it wouldn't really have mattered because they would have run in their respective elections, and they would have most likely won again. Like these are, if you hear Justin Pearson or Justin Jones speak, you know what the hell is up. Now, let me find these videos of Justin Pearson just like going absolutely off.
The National Rifle Association and all of these gun lobbyists continue to be able to have control over our legislation. What's going through my mind right now is we need to fight for democracy in the state of Tennessee, and we need people not only just to vote, but people to show up and speak out so that we can end the gun violence epidemic that's happening in our state. This is wrong, this is unjust, and this is not the way that it has to be. There is a better way for us to live, and we don't have to live this way. But the Republican Party of the state of Tennessee want to keep things the same. If you want to fight to change it, if you want to help to make this place a better place, you have to use your voice, you have to use your power, and yes, sometimes you've got to get expelled.
Sir, sends you back. Are you going to take
I'm coming back because this institution has to change. The injustices that are happening here must change.
Okay, you can hear and see these protesters outside. This honestly, I think this will be a historic moment in the United States, without a doubt,
And
actually.
I'll continue to fight, and my family will continue to fight to make this a place that it ought to be, and not the place that it is now.
What do you have to say to the people in Memphis who came so far?
To everybody in Memphis and Millington and District 86, I love you, I thank you, and thank you for believing that changing and fighting to change the status quo is the right thing to do. We knew we were going to keep our principles and our values. We knew that we were going to have our ancestors with us. We knew that we were not going to yield to injustice, and we will not yield because there's too much at stake. We see gun violence every single day. We have too many loved ones that we're putting in the ground, and these folks up here treat things like it's business as usual. It is not business as usual. Our lives are at stake, and we're going to fight for our lives just like they're fighting for the NRA.
Sir!
Okay, so yeah, it's really loud. I honestly wish there was like a clean audio of him, because like he is just like firing off on all cylinders.
Again, if you keep stand up there at the well with the bull
It's very hard to hear.
and do that same thing again if need be. Yes, we will never shirk back from civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is what built this country. Resisting the status quo built the United States of America into the institution that it is, and it's my ancestors' resistance that got me here. And so I will not forget them or forget the struggles of people, especially children who march, children who are beaten by dogs, children who are beaten. If I got to get expelled, I'll take that.
Why do you think that you and Justin Jones were expelled, but Gloria Johnson was not expelled?
You cannot ignore the racial dynamic of what happened today. Two young black lawmakers get expelled and the one white woman does not. That's a statement in and of itself.
Okay, just so brilliant. Honestly, like it gives me like goosebumps just hearing this man speak. It does feel like he will be like the Martin Luther King of this generation. He also penned a piece in the New York Times. This was from April 12th, just a couple days ago. And you can see the first thing that they say is, update, on April 12th, the Shelby County Board of Commissioners voted unanimously to reinstate Justin J. Pearson to his seat in the Tennessee House. And they also did reinstate Justin Jones as well. Justin Jones literally sounds like it should be in like a comic book. Like he literally sounds like he's a Marvel extended universe character. So yeah, defiant and determined. I'm ready to keep fighting for Tennessee. This is from Justin J. Pearson. Memphis. In January, my former high school classmate Larry Thorne was shot dead. Larry was sweet and beloved, and a coach and a secretary at a Shelby County, Tennessee middle school when he was killed on January 10th, just a month before I took my seat in the state house. In February, in only 10 days, 20 people were shot in mass shootings in Memphis, the community I represented, and on Monday, 5 people were shot dead at the Old National Bank in Louisville, Kentucky, I assume. In the wake of the March 27 Covenant School mass shooting in Nashville that took 6 precious lives, including that of the 9-year-old Haley Scruggs, Evelyn Dykehouse, and William Kinney, our people are traumatized. They want action. honestly, I can't get over the fact that conservatives were trying to use this shooting as a way to call for trans genocide and stoke the fears of the trans panic. And actual progressives, actual people who care about this issue, use this as a way to talk about what is actually important, that people are dying because of a lack of gun control. It is honestly such a stark contrast that I feel like it is without a doubt going to be a turning point in this quote unquote culture war. But it does at times very much feel like a real war. Following the school massacre, I walked into work in the State House each day, seeing hundreds of young protesters, many with signs that asked, "Am I next?" We were traumatized too. We wanted action too, and the difference was it was literally our job to act. Yet, Republican legislators refused to take meaningful action. Instead, some have averted their eyes and hurried into the chamber, walking through hundreds of morning protesters to discuss a bill to further expand gun rights by allowing teachers to carry weapons on campus. But many of us did not. We stopped and embraced traumatized children, parents, and elders. We prayed. We protested. In this season of rebirth and renewal, I stood beside my people with hope, for God said, "Let light shine out of darkness." Honestly, I feel bad almost like reading this in my own voice, because I wish it was Justin J. Pearson's voice going off reading this article. But thanks for listening to me instead. We will try to find more videos of Justin Jones and Justin J. Pearson. Last week, the people of Tennessee and the nation witnessed an assault against democracy when my colleague Justin Jones and I, both young black Democratic men, were expelled from office for allegedly breaching decorum on the House floor. My former colleague, a 60-year-old white female Democratic representative, Gloria Johnson, had also joined our peaceful protest against gun violence, but narrowly survived expulsion. Mr. Jones has since returned to the House after a vote by the Nashville Metropolitan Council. I'm hoping the Shelby County Board of Commissioners similarly puts me back in the House on Wednesday. And, of course, we already know that they did. There is something amiss in the decorum of the State House when GOP leaders like Representative Paul Sherrill, who proposed death from hanging by a tree, is an acceptable form of state execution. Oh my God, is this for real? This is insane. Mr. Sherrill later apologized for this comment. But still, the fact that he made it in the first place is unhinged. Feel comfortable berating Mr. Jones and me for our peaceful act of civil disobedience. This, in Tennessee, the birthplace of the Klan, a land stained with the blood of lynchings of my people. Yeah, so, I mean, not that anyone would be surprised, but there are openly racist, probably Klan members who are representatives.
Try and take it easy till I get back to normal.
Yo, what's up, Crispy? Rand Paul refused to vote for a ban. What? Are you serious? That is ridiculous. KK members should be expelled. I mean, the thing about KK members is that it's hard. They usually wear a hood for a reason, right? I wasn't elected to be pushed to the back of the room and silenced. We who were elected to represent all Tennesseans, black, white, brown, immigrant, female, male, poor, young, transgender, and queer, are routinely silenced when we try to speak on their behalf. Last week, the world was allowed to see it in broad daylight. In such a hostile environment for democracy, I'm inspired by the late civil rights fighter and Congressman John Lewis, who in 1965, when demonstrating for voting rights in Selma, Alabama, endured a police beating that almost took his life. In 2016, after the tragic Pulse nightclub massacre that killed 49 people, he led a sit-in on the U.S. House floor for 25 hours to protest the inaction of lawmakers in the pockets of the National Rifle Association, the NRA. My mother, a school teacher, and my father, a pastor, instilled in me the hope that justice is possible for all. When I was 15, I attended a Memphis City School Board meeting with my parents to give a speech demanding access to quality textbooks and classes that white peers in their school districts had. These were resources that increased their opportunities for a good college education, chances that black students too deserved. A few years ago, I helped lead a coalition of community activists in the fight against the construction of Byhalia Connection crude oil pipeline project in my late grandmother's community in southwest Memphis, where, according to a 2013 study, the risk of cancer is 4 times the national average. Both of my grandmothers died from cancer. Man. Our coalition killed the project before it killed more of us. We fought and we won. Unchecked gun violence, environmental racism, the denial of basic health and human services should enrage us all and compel us to action. Man, I'm honestly like getting goosebumps. Like this type of language from an elected official in the US, in like southern United States, is just unreal. Like he's so radical, right? He's an established Democrat and he's this radical. And honestly, this is what the Democrats need. They need a leader who is radical. And they've been so complacent for so long, right? Like the most radical we get is Barack Obama and Joe Biden, and it's like, okay, these are just people who are established center right blue Republicans, essentially. You know, even Obama was like, I have the politics of a Republican in the 80s. It's like, yeah, you do, Obama. But then we have Bernie Sanders, who is one of the most radical people, but he didn't in the US politics. And he was able to move the entire political spectrum towards the left. And he didn't do that by being super critical of Barack Obama or Joe Biden or the establishment Democratic elites, right? But he simply did it by engaging in the process and highlighting the issues that were important to him. You know, it was literally just like Medicare for all. And that seemed like the most radical idea in mainstream American politics. And that somehow was able to move the political spectrum over. I feel like Justin Pearson and Justin Jones might be those leaders in the future because they are already part of the Democratic political machine, right? And if they can simply be a very radical voice within that machine, then they might be able to move the whole party over to the left simply by talking about the issues, right? And honestly, the way to do it is not to oppose like Joe Biden. It like if you can move the Democrats left while also opposing Republicans, that is basically, in my opinion, the way to move the Overton window. It's not just our individual voices that were sanctioned and silenced last Thursday. It was the voices of the nearly 135,000 Tennesseans we represented, many desperate for protection from the absence of many common sense gun safety laws in our state. Since the Covenant School shooting, the Republican supermajority in the state house has done little but advance a bill that would allow teachers to carry guns in school and propose a $140 million budget increase to pay for the presence of armed guards in public schools, further militarizing them without adequate evidence that this makes schools safer. My goodness, can you imagine just like being in a school where there's an armed guard, where the state is proposing $140 million to have people with guns be in your school so that just in case there are other people with guns in your school? It is literally insane. Like it is honestly such a difficult issue as well, because there's so many guns in the US that to stand against this is really, really difficult. Right? So it's basically like a David and Goliath with this gun issue, right? Because the lobby is so strong in the US, especially the southern US. So to actually stand up, to actually give traction to this issue of gun rights, it's so difficult. So the fact that it has actually occurred in the US is honestly like a miracle. There were armed teachers in Tennessee. I'm not surprised. Yeah. Which is insane to me, because once like everyone has guns, like literally anyone can start a mass shooting at any moment. Because like, oh, like the teachers have guns, there's armed guards at the school. What if one of them decide to shoot up the school one day? Like it's just, more guns are obviously not the answer, right? And it's not necessarily, and as this points out, there's not adequate evidence that this makes schools safer. Besides expanding already expansive gun rights, Republican-led state houses across the country are proposing and passing staggering numbers of bills that serve a fringe, white, evangelical agenda. Man, imagine can you imagine like Joe Biden saying something like this? He's basically saying that just like white supremacy is being served by the Republican-led state houses. That is just like so refreshing to hear. So refreshing to hear that this is like he's directly calling out white supremacy that abrogates the rights and freedoms of the rest of us. They're passing legislation to control the intellectual freedom of writers and educators, proposing laws that would restrict the bodily autonomy of transgender children and people who can become pregnant, and curtailing even our right to vote. This is very progressive language. This is proposing laws that would restrict the bodily autonomy of transgender children and people who can become pregnant. This is like really nice to hear from a lawmaker, especially since in recent days, some of our supposedly progressive political pundits have taken issue with simply being labeled as people who can become pregnant or birthing bodies, So like, it's like, yeah, you know what? In a legal and medical sense, some like language like this should be used. And as a lawmaker, obviously you're talking about these issues in a legal sense. Combined with a shrinking social safety net, as people lose access to resources to meet basic health, housing, and food needs, we have a nation in pain and peril. In a small victory for our people clamoring for change, Governor Bill Lee announced Tuesday that he would sign an executive order strengthening background checks for buying firearms, and called for Republican lawmakers to support a red flag law. Red flag laws are a tool of law enforcement and others can use when somebody is clearly at high risk of doing something with a firearm, but they can't be arrested because no crime has been committed and they don't appear to need a mental health hold or qualify for one. Yeah, like, okay, yeah. I agree. Like, I honestly think this red flag law should apply to like anyone who commits even the smallest of crimes, especially when it comes to like domestic violence. Like, if you commit domestic violence, you should not be allowed access to guns. If you commit any violent act at all, your ability to access guns should be taken away entirely. I was elected early this year by the people of Memphis and Millington to stand up for all of us against encroachments on our freedoms. I will continue to fight with and for our people, whether in or out of office. We and the young protesters are the future of a new Tennessee. Those who seek to silence us will not have the final say. Man, this, like as I said, just like, this is making me actually feel hope for the first time in a long time. Hope is honestly, it feels like a foreign feeling to me at this point when I'm here talking about politics every day. So I'm like, what is this? What is this feeling creeping up inside my chest? Is this hope? Is this what hope feels like? I still can't believe that like him and Justin Jones, they're like 27 and 28 years old. Can we just appreciate the vibe too? Like the suit with the afro and the glasses. Like this is like an iconic look. Like, come on. This there's so much footage of Justin Jones. Honestly, the Republicans made such a miscalculation in doing this. Like they basically birthed an entire movement. And this is exactly what the Republicans are terrified of, is like young people embedding themselves in politics and opposing like everything that they're fighting for. Okay, wow, look at this picture here. So good. This honestly, you honestly feel like you're like looking at like your high school history textbook when you see some of these pictures. Okay, they are on Joy Reid. So, they're like, this is crazy. Like Joy Reid wouldn't even like talk to like Bernie Sanders in good faith.
I have this piece in front of me from Politico.
I just think it's like fascinating because like I'm pretty sure Justin Jones has also talked to Barack Obama. Like the fact that he is getting this much traction within mainstream Democratic Party politics is
and it isn't
amazing.
From 1973, it's literally from this year, from April, that talks about former members of that body, Cade Cothran, saying black people are idiots. He later has apologized for that, is actually now facing some federal charges of bribery and other things.
The Republicans in Tennessee are literally Ku Klux Klan members. Like, who would say that? Even like, imagine like living in a world where it was politically expedient for you to say something like that as well. That is ridiculous.
Another member referring to wetbacks when telling a story about the border. On other occasions, joking about people in the body, in the Republican body, Republicans publicly cracking jokes about black people eating fried chicken. And then there was this one. A former Republican legislative staff member told this reporter, whose name is Natalie Allison, that in 2020, a member of the House Republican leadership in a text message referred to your colleague, Justin Jones, then an activist who was trying to take down the Nathan Bedford Forrest statue and advocate, just as you were an activist as well, referred to himself and another black lawmaker as baboons. That's the atmosphere that you work in. You also have had that same Republican leadership threaten to punish the city of Memphis, the great city of Memphis, for returning you to your office. How do you work with people like that? And do you expect your city to actually be financially punished, Haiti style, for daring to stand up for their elected representative?
Wait, what is Haiti style? Okay.
The state capitol, run by the Republican majority, is a toxic work environment. I will be the first to admit that. It is undergirded by white supremacy and patriarchy. It has for too long operated as a place of injustice and disservice to the people of the state of Tennessee. Those are the things that undergird the foundations of the institution. But something that's really important for all of us to know who are in the movement for justice is that institutions do not in and of themselves build or develop moral courage. In fact, there may be a good few folks inside, but it's the people outside of institutions who externally push for it to be better, who demand accountability at the voting booth, but also every time that the session opens, and who says, I'm going to check every bill and I'm going to make sure that I raise my voice for each piece of legislation that help to transform the people and the institution itself to be a more democratic place. And that is the hope that I have, even for working in an institution like this. But the truth of those comments, or the truth of other comments, are real. And it is a difficult and a challenging place for us to be, but it's not a place so challenging that we cannot be there and that we should not be there to fight for our constituents and for the people in District 86. And the reality is the threats and retaliation has happened before against Memphis and Millington and Shelby County, the district that we represent. And so it is a concern that we have. But again, we will be watching, we will be paying attention, and we will be holding this legislature accountable for doing the things that we're supposed to do, like ending gun violence and reducing poverty.
Man, I feel like he has like they maxed out his charisma stat when they were leveling up this young man, like he's just like 10 out of 10 everything that he says. It was Haiti's punishment. Okay, I thought they said Haiti. punishment. But that makes more sense. So this means that what, you have to like pull a Zagreus and go through the depths of the underworld to defeat your dad. All I know is from video games. It just keeps getting worse. Yeah, for real. The things that they've said are ridiculous. This is why are they creating a media circus to distract from the completely evil things that they are and have been doing behind closed doors. Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, I think the Republican Party, like, they have a legitimate fear of becoming irrelevant because they know that this younger generation, which is, let's face it, these are 27, 28-year-olds. They're embodying this generation and standing up for civil rights in a way that we have not seen in mainstream American politics until for kind of like a long time now, like, again, my goodness, these pictures make it look like a history book. I like you feel like you're watching history. Okay, so Justin Pearson rejoins the House. Okay, this was 20 hours ago. Great.
House Bill 921 by Speaker Pro Tem Morris, relevant contracts, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, Morris, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 975.
Speaker Pro Tem Morris, will you substitute and conform to Senate Bill 975?
This is iconic, right? Like, this is 100% iconic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to passage.
House Bill 921 by Speaker.
So, for the first time in a long time, yeah, look at that smile. Yeah, for real. For the first time in a long time, I think like there's hope for this generation. It's so refreshing to see somebody stand up to the, like, what is really the embodiment of like all the evil in America, in North America, the Republican Party, especially in its like most racist, most xenophobic, most transphobic, most homophobic form, and it's like a champion was born. And what we have been missing for so long as like a leftist movement in North America is a champion. And as much as we want to believe that we're going to somehow defeat this as like people on because we're connected all on Twitter, and if we can just dunk on insane bigots on Twitter more, then somehow we will make a difference. What we really need is a leader, and that is how politics really works. You need somebody who's going to challenge and really bring the opposition to their knees. That is us playing our part in the distractions. Yeah, for real. Right. And I hope that what is happening right now in the US, like Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, I hope that people in Canada, especially like the NDP, is maybe able to like take a note and be like, hey, we are allowed to be this radical. And actually being this radical is really popular. Right. And I think that is the thing that holds so many progressives back, is because they are worried that being radical is unpopular. But this story with the Justins is like amazingly popular, right? Like anybody can like watch this and be like, wow, this is history in the making. This is giving us hope. This is giving us energy. This is giving us like a new opportunity to create the political change that we need to see in this world, right? So I just really hope that other politicians are able to witness this and be like, oh, maybe I can be this radical. Maybe there is a way forward for my career if I tap into this vibe. Why not make sure you don't miss the next video by liking, commenting, subscribing, and ringing the bell? Thank you so much for watching. It's my homie 2 Taro. Peace.